Oftentimes you hear about people saying, I would never raise my kids in LA. Particularly as people who are from another state considering moving to LA, Los Angeles, or a big city. And they always say, I would never raise my kids in LA. And I say, why? My daughter's here. She is cheerleading here in elementary school. She's cheerleading for a soccer game today. And, you know, I sit back and I smile with pride and joy in seeing my kids achieving everything that they wanted to achieve. And I thought I answered this question, should you raise your kids in LA? And the answer is, for me, yes, absolutely. Absolutely 100%. I would never raise my kids in the city I was from. Here's why. But we'll continue this conversation once I get back to the lab. I'm gonna focus on my kids here. So once I get back to the lab, we'll elaborate more on this. Hey, welcome back. Sorry, I did not get a chance to do this the other day. My kids, they had their soccer game. They was having a good old time. Then we just had a really busy weekend. We went to the Electric Car Expo out here in Long Beach. They were hanging out with their friends, and it was just a very blessed, busy weekend. But I'm back. I wanted to make this quick video, very impromptu. I jotted down a few notes, but we're just gonna run through these things. I know, like a lot of people have these questions. I had these questions, like, should you raise your kids in LA? How is it raising your kids in LA? Being that I came from a smaller city, I had these questions, and I know if you're thinking about making your move to a big city like LA or New York or the other big major cities, you probably have these questions about what it's like and what the differences is going to be like. So I'm just going to run through a couple of quick things here, try and make it real brief. But first, like, I would never ever consider raising kids where I'm from. I'm born and raised in Minnesota, and the number one reason why I would never raise my kids in Minnesota is because of the racism. I was called a nigger from first grade all the way up until when I graduated. Like, no lie, no joke, like, ridiculous. I remember the first day some kid called me a nigger on the bus. I didn't even really know what it meant, but it kind of stabbed me, you know what I mean? So, and I would not want my kids to go through that because I would be in jail. Like, I would lose my shit, absolutely. So that was never an option for me to raise my kids in Minnesota. I know a lot of black people are up there, a lot of people of color are up there, they doing it, they're probably just fine. But my kids are not going through that battle. Not to mention, I was pulled over by the police like every other week just for driving while black. So no to Minnesota. Alright, so LA. I think it's a fabulous place to raise your kids. I really think it's dope. And that's coming because I am a LA lover. I've always loved LA. I always knew I was going to end up here in LA. And it's just working out greatly for myself and for my kids. So I'm just going to run through a couple of quick things of why I think it's cool and good to raise your kids in LA. First, we're going to hit it off with diversity. I think diversity is dope. It's cool when I drop my kids off at school and there's all these different kids of all different nationalities and cultures hanging out and talking and just enjoying each other's company. And then at the different schools, there's like all these different types of recognitions and festivals for all of the different cultures, holidays. So I think my kids are really becoming really well-rounded and being accepting of other people's cultures and just aware that there's differences out there. Even though they're not like totally aware that there's like culture differences, which is cool. Excuse me, but they're aware that people are different and they're celebrating other people's cultures just like they celebrate our culture. We had a Black History Month celebration at my girl's school, and there were people there who weren't black. Black history is American history, so I really like that. I love when my kids are at the playground and you know, they're just out there running around and like all the kids just start linking up like pop 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 from all different cultures. Like, I love the diversity. One thing that makes me chuckle often is like when their kids are out playing with when my kids is out playing with the other people's kids, like their kids usually speak English and then they speak whatever their home language is. But then like I'll go like say hello to the parent, or that parent would come up and say something to me, and I had no clue what the hell they saying. Like, but we just talking, and we have our common denominator, which is our kids, and like we're trying to communicate, and like I really really dig that, and I would love to brush up on at least my Spanish, not brush up, learn my Spanish. That's just real important to me. So I need to do that. Finish that. Stay in tune with that. So yeah, I think that's cool. And just quickly on that, I had like a neighbor. He would always see me in my garage working on my car that I still haven't finished. Ain't even close to finishing. I need to finish that. But he would come over and just point to stuff. He couldn't speak English. I actually have no idea what language. I have no idea what language he spoke. I know he was from the Middle East, but I have no idea. But we would still try to communicate. He would bring over like a beer, and we would just sit there and point and try to communicate, do hand gestures, trying to communicate. I think that's dope. I love that. And I think that's really good for kids to experience that. Editing this video now, and they just happen to have a multicultural event here at the school tonight, so we're gonna check it out. Hey. The educational system here, I think the educational system is good. One of the things I was worried about, that the classes were going to be too big, but that's really not the case. I think the classes are very well managed, but I also think that depends on what area you are in. Before I moved out here, my eldest daughter, she's like 26, 27. But when we first moved out here, I was asking around, and people were saying, go move to Glendale. So I had to put my kids first. They said Glendale had like the best educational system, so that's where we ended up first. While the education system was good, Glendale just wasn't diverse, and that you get that sometimes. Like there's places in area that is heavily populated by a certain culture or group, and it's not really diverse, so to speak. Glendale is heavy in the Armenian population, and pretty much she was the only black kid in the school, and I didn't like that. I didn't want that for her. So then she was only there for a year. Then we went to the next city over, which was Burbank, which also has its own school district. Glendale has Glendale Unified, Burbank has Burbank Unified, and then there's other cities that have their own school district, but then there's LAUSD, who covers the majority of Los Angeles. So we went over to Burbank because everybody was saying avoid LAUSD, which I don't think you have to avoid LAUSD. You just have to be involved in your child's education. That's always the big thing. You have to be involved in your child's education. But anyway, she went to Burbank, graduated from Burbank. It was way more diverse way more diverse than Glendale. Not as diverse as Long Beach. But it was good. Like she wasn't the only black kid in pretty much all of her classes. There was other black kids in her classes, and I liked it because sometimes it feels like when you're in a school where there's a handful of black parents, I mean, maybe there's like 30 or 40 or maybe even 50 black parents. I feel like there's a tighter knit community, and you guys really come together and problem solve and troubleshoot a lot of different things. So there's plenty of opportunities to be involved in your kids' education, and you just have to do that. Now my younger ones, they have been in LAUSD. They went to a magnet school, which I think was fine. I thought it was fine. It wasn't like it wasn't on the level of it wasn't on the level of Burbank, but it was fine. Again, you just have to be involved with your kids' education. They also they went to a school in Sherman Oaks, and then they also went to a school in Lake Balboa. I'm just generalizing because both of them didn't go. I'm just trying to get through this video because one was too young, the other one was in the school. You know what I mean? And Sherman Oaks is a very affluent area. While the school was there, while the school was good, the education was good, it didn't have like that community feel. Like, I'm personally blown away at the community feel here in Long Beach. Like, parents show up for their kids. Like, if there's a school event, like, that event is packed out. Like, they show up. They are extremely involved. I'm always communicating with my kids' teachers. So you just really have to be involved with your kids' education. But yeah, Long Beach is really impressing me with their educational system here. Long Beach isn't a part of LAUSD. It's Long Beach Unified here. So definitely give it 2 thumbs up. So really, if you want a good school, it really depends on the area that you are in. Obviously, unfortunately, it's like this. The more affluent the area is, generally the more funding that school has, and the better opportunities they have at that school. Like in Sherman Oaks, I think they were doing like a fundraiser for like $300,000, and they hit that in a matter of days. Like, they hit that goal. So that was through the PTA. I'm generalizing. I'm not exactly sure, but it was a high number. I was like, wow, which a lot of other communities are not going to be able to hit. So I think the education here is cool. Get your kids involved in sports. Quick things that kind of took me for a loop when I first got here. I took notes on this because I remember my daughter saying a couple of these when we were in Glendale. She was like, "Well, how are there gates around all the schools? Like, is it prison?" Like in Minnesota, I don't ever remember a gate being around my elementary school or middle school. Never. I remember like my elementary school, and then there was like people backyards that connected to the field of the elementary school. Here, it's gated. All schools are gated all the way around. The only thing that's open is the front. So the only way to get into the school is through the front of the school. So that kind of threw her off when we were looking at that, and it kind of threw me off as well because it kind of did look like a prison. It really did. But after some time, that kind of actually grew on me, and like I kind of expect that type of security at kids' school. Like, anybody should not be able to just walk up onto the school campus and do whatever they want. Like, those times are gone. Like, I remember elementary school, like there would just be the neighbors just walking in the back of the school, doing all that stuff, doing just lily-dillying. They weren't causing any trouble, but I wouldn't want that in today's time. I don't want anybody walking up on any of my kids' campuses. So I think that the campuses are pretty darn secure. If anybody bringing in anything, it's probably the students, unfortunately, but that's the world that we live in. Another thing, there's no school buses. Like, my kids really want to ride a school bus. And there's no school buses. I don't know why that is. You think there will be school buses with all of the traffic. I think that would cut down on traffic, but there are no school buses out here, and I have no idea why that is. So they will probably never be able to ride a school bus unless they're going on a field trip. And then there's one other thing that kind of took my daughter for a surprise because she was the one coming from the Midwest to LA. Hallways, like the schools are outside. Like, she ate lunch outside. There's like a little canopy sometimes, and if it rains, they will eat in like their cafeteria. But like, when you pass to your next class, you're passing to your next class outside, like just like in the movies, pretty much. That's not how it was in Minnesota. It was too damn cold to be walking outside. I know on TV you see like the high school students dressing all crazy and sexy, and even in some middle school shows. That does not happen. I'm sure it happens some places sometimes, but it didn't happen in my daughter's high school in Burbank. I've worked in high schools out here. I don't see kids dressing like that. In fact, in Long Beach, there's a dress code, dress code. You have to wear like a school uniform. But even when I was working in LAUSD, I just did not see that. Like, don't believe everything that you see in the movies, but at the same time, you have to believe some of the things that you see in the movies, because some of the things is actually correct about Los Angeles. So much to talk about. All right, exposure. I think kids are exposed to a lot of things, the good and the bad. But again, I think that's one of the things that builds up that character, that builds up that compassion for others. And I think you get that in the big city. Like, they see homeless people, they see graffiti, they see tagging, but they see the beauty, they see people helping people, they see the different cultures. They see, we visit like the different towns, like Chinatown or Little Ethiopia or Leimert Park. Like, there's just a lot. Like, we are just exposed to a lot, and I try my best to expose them to everything to make sure they're well rounded. And if there is something that's out of the ordinary, like seeing a homeless encampment, which is ridiculous, California, LA, y'all gotta get a grip on that, because it just makes no damn sense. But we talk about it now, they're aware of it. They really want to volunteer, like hand out food, but they're still too young. I try signing them up, so if anybody knows where my little ones, elementary school age, can volunteer their time and help those who are homeless, my girls really want to do that, but I haven't been able to find any of that. But I think the exposure is good. They're exposed to the car culture. They're exposed to all these different sports. Sorry, my alarm here. Exposed to all these different sports. And one more thing, one more kudos to Long Beach. I think, and they're exposed to like a lot of different foods. Like, just, I think the exposure is everything. Let's see, last thing here, the activities. I think there's plenty of things to keep your kids engaged and going. Again, I think it depends on the city that you're living in. When my daughters, they wanted to do like gymnastics, but when we were living in the valley, a lot of the gymnastics was private places. It was really hard to find some that, one, wasn't an arm and a leg, and two, that were accepting new students. But here, another kudos to Long Beach. Long Beach offers so many different services. Like, they got gymnastics, they got dancing, they got karate, they got swimming lessons. Like, they have everything all through the city of Long Beach, and all extremely affordable. Like, Long Beach is killing it. I'm not trying to sell you on Long Beach, but Long Beach is killing it. There's some things that I would change about Long Beach, and we could talk about that later, but Long Beach is killing it. So yes, raise your kids in LA. I did not touch at all on the finances, because I think that's just dependent on your circumstance. Like, when I'm hanging out with some of my kids' friends, like, we just chat, and like, no, everybody's not making six figures. Everybody's not balling out of control, but they're able to give their kids a good education. They're able to raise their kids. They're able to provide for their kids. But that's just dependent on the situation. I think the best thing you can do is look to see like a YMCA if you want to get them in extracurricular activities, or maybe your city that you're moving to offers some different services. But there's a ton of free things that you can do out here. The beach, hiking, there's some museums, the Getty, there's a bunch of places that you could just go and enjoy. There's movie nights at a few places in LA that we used to frequent. There's jazz nights. There's like a lot of stuff that you can go with a date, or you can take your kids to. But I roll with my kids pretty much everywhere. But I do have my own kick of time. We'll talk about that later. But I think that's it. Yes. Raise your kids in LA. Feel free to drop me any questions. Raising your kids in LA is probably raising your kids in LA. I think it's worth it. I think the exposure is worth it. And it all depends what you want for yourself. It all depends what you want for your kids. And I'm happy. I am happy with my kids here. And then plus, we got the finest universities, baby. We got the finest universities out here in LA, California. Like, we doing it out here. And the education system, it's rigorous. It's very rigorous. It has a high criteria. And I know you'll look at some stats, but there's specific reasons why some of the stats are not as strong as the other ones. But that's a whole nother video. But move out here, pick a good area, and I think you'll be good. LA is expansive. One quick thing, LA is expansive. Again, it's not like it looks on TV everywhere, because you can go up north, like the Santa Clarita area, or push it out east, past like Monrovia and all those cities that don't even come to mind. Like, it's totally different experience, and more affordable real estate than what you would get the closer you get to the ocean. But we'll talk about that on the next video. Until next time, baby, dig in LA.